So I'm gonna take one more deep breath. Hold on. And I'm gonna stay unmuted. It's really hard for me to breathe lately. Letting folks in is tricky as okay, so I'm just gonna start talking. And hopefully no one has to wait in the waiting room for too long. So as we probably know, this event is part of Smother 2.0. I am Anna Adler. She, her are my pronouns. I'm located at Bethany Arts Center, Bethany Arts Community. Wow, I haven't made that mistake in ever. In Ossining, which is Lenni Lenape land. And I'm really grateful to be here with you all. I'm actually going to read from my script just because I'm a little bit nervous, but then I'll share a little bit more about Bethany off script as well. Bethany was founded on the belief that the arts can enhance our perceptions and perspectives of the world. As a place where the arts can be created and experienced without fear, where we welcome the community to create and express themselves within our galleries and facilities. Our beautiful campus includes a performance space, dance studio, classrooms, studios for local artists, and accommodations for our residency programs, as well as gardens and a sculpture park. And I will add an orchard and bees and so much more, and flowers. I wanted to share that I have a particular connection to Bethany, having grown up here without a space like this, and really sort of discovering it when I was coming back to live in this area, coming back home, and sort of rediscovering what it meant to be from this place and finding this incredible cultural haven here, which was really a pretty fantastic and pivotal moment for me in kind of re-seeing where I'm from and what this place, this area looks like in terms of arts and culture work and life in general. And so that was in 2017 or 18 when I discovered Bethany. So I'm really grateful for that and grateful to be here with all of you in this amazing virtual space as well as physical space. And I'm gonna hand it over to our facilitator today, Kacie Lyn Martinez, who is part of this project on different levels as an artist and as a facilitator, as a collaborator. And so I'm just happy to hand it over. Thank you so much, Kacie.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and good afternoon. I saw a friend who's from Greece, so he's tuning in here. So hi, I'm really excited to facilitate this. It's been a wonderful opportunity to meet all of the artists that we'll be talking with today. So there's 7 artists. So I'll just go over the structure so y'all can get y'all's bearings in the conversation. We are recording this, the first part of it, which is a majority of the conversation. And I'll start by asking a few questions, or actually we'll start by a guided meditation that will help bring us into our body to create space for the type of conversation that we'll have together. And then I'll just ask a handful of questions to the artists who will use that as a platform to share their stories, to share about their art practices, and perhaps talk about some of the pieces in this exhibition. And then we'll do a Q&A, but a pretty abbreviated one. So during the talk, if you have any questions that you would like to ask the artists, go ahead and chat that. You can do it to either everyone or you can do it directly to me, and I'll pull from those questions and ask the artists that. And then, we'll have like a thank you. And so we were thinking about how to frame this discussion and how to find spaciousness with topics that can be so vulnerable and heavy and difficult and triggering. And so what we did is we decided that the last 15 or so minutes would actually be a pretty unstructured discussion. So that could be a time where we revisit some of the things that we felt needed a little bit more airtime or thought or energy. It could be also a time where you connect with someone one-on-one. You really, maybe you start chatting with them and you kind of pull to the side and have a discussion or a moment of connection. The artists could ask each other questions. They could ask you questions. It's really free form. And that ending piece, the last 15 minutes, won't be recorded. So I just want to call that out there. Also, in the meantime, as people are responding and you're hearing about people's story, and as things move you, there are reaction buttons that you can use. So it's at the bottom of your screen, kind of in the center. So feel free as the artists are speaking, to share a heart or share a party sign or whatever it is that that moves you. That could be a visual and silent way of engaging with them as they're talking. Okay, then I'll start by introductions. So to start with, I'm Kacie Lyn Martinez. I'm a facilitator, a weaver, and a public artist. I am really interested in how individuals and communities heal and dream together. And the question that I've asked all the artists to answer on top of a short introduction is, in a word, what does your healing journey look like today? And for me, my word is salt. So I'm going to ask Celeste if she would be willing to go next in the introductions.
Hello, my name is Celeste Neuhaus. I'm an artist and witch who makes imagery, performance, and objects. And I explore the interrelationships between healing and magic in my work and my offerings. And my healing journey today looks like putting on a lot of makeup so that I can camouflage the sleep deprivation that is appearing here.
Thank you, Celeste. Edith, would you like to go next? Okay, maybe we'll come back to Edith, or you're on mute.
Hi. I'm not used to doing this Zoom thing, so I'll do my best. So I'm Edith Ford, and I'm an artist, and I'm participating in this present art exhibit primarily because of a point of grief as I lost my son last year. He was also an artist, and all the reflections that I've been doing about my grief was through art mostly. So that's primarily why I'm here today. I was still trying to heal. My grief I'm healing, but I have a loving family, and he had a sister that's very sweet and true. And so, but I was reflecting on families and history and all the decisions that your family makes over the evolution of time, and how it affects you. And sometimes you don't even realize the effects of generations of decision making about life and survival. So basically that's what my grief looks like. Just thinking, and I've been reading some Virginia Woolf, and that's been really helpful.
Great. Thank you, Edith. Erin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Erin Sweeny. I'm an artist and a mother, a writer and a podcaster. And the ideas I'm really exploring revolve around home, place, and refuge. And I would say that my healing journey right now feels like an onion.
Thanks, Erin. Jaime?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jaime Posa Cornell. I'm a writer, and I also call myself a doodler. And my creative expressions focus on getting the raw, in the moment, what I call mud and miracles of early motherhood on paper as a way to create more breathing room. And today, my healing journey looks like the water cycle.
Thanks, Jaime. Jasmin?
Hi, right now I'm Jasmin Eli Washington, but I've been several different people since about 2006. We're painters. We mostly work with like acrylic on fabric, sometimes pen and ink. I would say our work is mostly focused on like parenting, mothering, teaching, nurturing, just to get like a result of something that's centered around themes of like coexistence, love, and like Black pride or Black heritage. So my healing journey looks like exotic fruit, but my grief journey definitely looks and feels like pavement.
Thank you, Jasmin. Rakel?
Hi, I'm Rakel Stammer. I'm a visual artist, printmaker, and soon to be the director of a project that I'm calling the School of Power. Today, my healing journey looks like discomfort.
Great, thank you. And then Renee. Renee, do you want to go ahead and give you're on mute still.
I didn't hear it. Hi, my name is Renee Wilson. I'm a mom, an aunt, an activist, a wife, a friend, a healer, many different things. So my grief journey looks like a washing machine, like cycles. So it's many different cycles. So it's up and down and a delicate and heavy soil sometimes, and a lot, and just trying to just breathe every day. My sister's death anniversary, she's coming up in
Do you want a moment, Renee? Yeah, okay. We're actually going to talk about grief journeys very soon. And with that in mind, actually, when I was talking with the different artists, my mom's 4th year death anniversary, series of anniversaries just passed. Renee's sister, Dreamer, her death anniversary, first death anniversary is in a few days. So it was in this proximity to these anniversaries and our relationship with grief. And then also, in talking with Anna about this conversation, wanting to have gratitude for how people are showing up and the stories that they're sharing, that we wanted to start off with this grounding ritual. So if everyone could get into a comfortable seated position, feel free to kind of take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, and then let your eyelids get heavy. And so as you're breathing in and breathing out, I'd just like you to, feel where your feet are. Perhaps they're on the ground. And as your feet are on the ground, we'll just imagine the core of the earth and the distance between your feet and that core of the earth. And imagine a connection between your feet and the core of the earth. And that connection could be a string or a root. Maybe it's a beam of light. But you and your feet are connected to the core of the earth. And take a deep breath in and out. And so if you put your hand either on your heart or on your wrist, I'd like you to just connect to your heartbeat. And breathing in and out. I want you to imagine your heart opening and warm energy is pouring out and connecting to everyone else's heart on this call. And our hearts together are beating and our feet are still connected to the same core of the earth. So with these open hearts, they're going to shine light on what we might be experiencing today. With these beating hearts, we acknowledge what or whom we may be grieving. And we're here to witness that grief and other people's grief as well. And through connecting to the same core of the earth, through our feet, we're here to hold space for those that are offering their stories to us. So we open our hearts to give thanks to the holders of those stories together. So I'd like you to breathe in again and breathe out one more time. And so it's from this place that everyone can return and we'll begin our conversation. So the first question that I have for the artist is what your grief journey looks like today. I didn't know if there's anyone that wanted to answer that question first that's called to answer that. And just a reminder for the artist to unmute yourself. Renee, is your hand raised?
Yes. So my grief journey, it looks emotional, chaotic, strong at most of the times because I have to be strong for my sisters and my nephews and my nieces and my mom as well. And sometimes it feels like glass, like I'm stepping on. And then most of the times just keeping myself together. So that's what my journey looks like. Chaotic, emotional, strong, and just making it on broken pieces.
Well, I'll say that like I've been living with grief for almost 10 years. Like I lost my mom when I was 22 and my dad when I was 23, and I made a whole lot of work around losing them. And I think for me, by now, my grief journey looks like continuing a relationship with my parents, even if they're not around, which is kind of an odd thing to like have this ongoing relationship with somebody who isn't aging and isn't changing and isn't experiencing all the things that I'm experiencing. But that I sort of continue learning about them by learning about myself. And also that like I had a very dysfunctional family. And so I'm continuing to sort of like try to figure out how do I how do I engage in conversation about who I am and my experiences that I had with them when they're not around, you know? And so that's what that looks like for me a lot of the time. And that's what my work basically has functioned as, like a tool for continuing conversations with people that aren't around anymore.
Yeah, that resonates a lot with me, both of you guys, Renee and Rakel. I lost my father in 2016, and I lost my best friend last year. Both were unexpected. Both I didn't get to say goodbye. So grief for me looks confusing and abrupt and unexpected. I think of being uprooted physically and emotionally. When I lost my father, I was in my 6th year of living abroad, where I thought I was going to continue living, and I left overnight and never really went back. And so I started my life here overnight. So it still feels like I'm still almost, building a home here in the midst of processing the loss of my father overnight was very difficult. And I also had a lot of dysfunction in my family, and there was a lot of difficulty with my dad. So it's been interesting grieving someone where I feel both such sadness and heaviness and pain, and also relief. And then that ends up making me feel like guilty in a way. And like, it's just, so that's why I say it's very confusing. And yeah, the same thing. I feel like it's interesting to get to know someone more with them not being here. I think with both my dad and my best friend, like I'll be doing something, and like the other day I was driving, and the way my hand was on the steering wheel, I remember like being in the backseat and watching my dad drive that way. And it's like so weird. And then just having kids, and I do things or I say things, and I realize, oh my God, that's why my dad used to do those things. And so it's been so interesting to realize that I can get to know him more in ways that I didn't know before, just by living my life. And that happens often. I'll be doing something and I realize sort of the reasoning behind why my dad was doing things, or I shine more light on his grief and suffering. And as I'm suffering, I realize, oh my God, that's what my dad meant all the time when he would say this, and that's what he was going through, and he didn't have someone there for him. So yeah, I said my grief healing journey is like the water cycle, I guess, just because there are periods where I'm just sort of like, like it's floating and there's flow and I'm okay. And then there's periods where it's like just stagnant and I don't know what to do. And there's periods where it's intense and painful, but then it passes. Sometimes it lasts longer than others. So yeah, that's a bit about my journey.
So I heard two people already say something that really resonated. Oh, I'm sorry, you can go first, Edith, if you want to.
Go ahead, Jasmin.
So I already heard two things that really resonate with me about grief. I lost my father a long time ago, like back in 2003. And sometimes without even realizing it, I feel like I may still be grieving that. So at first my grief journey really felt really like lonely and like some type of an experience that I felt was only happening to me. But as the years went along of me taking the journey of grief and developing into several different personalities of people to try to like cope with the different grief I was experiencing, I was lucky enough to meet people along the way. It kind of gave me like a communal feeling, like I wasn't the only person experiencing such pain. And I appreciate that. But I really am struggling with trying to figure out different and new ways to cope with that sadness, like every day. The part about the fathers, it resonates with me so much. Like my father was like my best friend, and he died a few days before my birthday and a few days before I graduated from college. And it's just like not to be able to share those moments with him that used to sharing with him was just like really, really hard. But yeah, lonely at first, but I'm slowly beginning to realize that there's the people that I'm gonna meet along the way of the grief journey.
Edith, did you want to share? You're still on mute.
Did I unmute?
Yes.
Okay. So my grief looks like trying to come to terms with the suffering of my son and then losing him. He was an artist, and he had a very pure way of seeing reality that the world doesn't, it doesn't jibe with the world. He was having a lot of trouble. And I was blessed because I had a lot of contact with him on his, say, the last 5 years of his life, because he seemed to have come to us for shelter. He'd go back and forth, oscillating, and with various demons that he was dealing with. And then just to lose him suddenly when I think he was right on the cusp of making a breakthrough, and then it was just over. So it's really hard. And the fact that I was intensely involved in his life makes it really hard, because you keep expecting him to walk in the room, and he just died suddenly, almost like disappeared. So it's really hard. And I do art. I'm an artist. I've always been an artist. And now I do it sometimes. I think it's just to somehow make a contact with him. And also I will say that music has helped me a lot. I didn't know that music would help me so much, but it's been not so much that I shared with him, but it's just almost like sometimes it comes to me like as some kind of an angel or something. It gives me comfort. But anyway.
Thank you, Edith. I was gonna think, let me just okay. So with that in mind, with this idea of, music, or, what does care and comfort look like during, it can be, your relationship to grieving and the conversations that you're having around grieving. What has care been in your experience? And I'm thinking too of Renee, you starting, like, your kind of response to grieving has been to start your clothing line. I don't know if you actually want to start by talking about that.
So the caring with grief, like my sister name is Dreamer, so I started a clothing line. It's called Define Your Dreams. Right now I'm working on the website, but you can find it if you guys have Instagram at Define Your Dreams Apparel. So it actually just helped me cope with it, and she was all about like love and fashion and stuff like that. So I wanted to leave like a legacy behind for her 4 children and letting them know that they still can define their dreams. So that's what it was about. And also just to help me get my mind off of some things, and to help me be an entrepreneur, and also to be able to move. We moved to North Carolina, so the children have their own space. Because my sister passed, we had like a 1-bedroom, so it was a lot of us. So now I'm here in North Carolina with the kids. I come back and forth because my husband is still in Austin, New York. But the kids, they really love it, and they have their own space and their own bedrooms and stuff like that. So yeah, it just helped me. It helps me a lot.
I wanted to talk a little bit about how care, thinking about care in time of crisis or safety, and how that feels, but also how it sounds. Like just for me, like reflecting upon that in my own life, the thing that comes to mind is just how quiet it is in care, and like in a time of crisis, there's this like deafening quiet that I felt. And when going back to when I was young, like I lost my father it's been over 3 decades now, and it was a really traumatic. He was a abusive alcoholic, just a really complicated person. And I think that during that time when it was at its worst, when we were really in crisis with my family, we were like walking on eggshells, and it was very tense. And I think there was something that was really absorbed and sort of understood, and we were just all trying to survive. And that was the way that we got through that. And it's really interesting, like I was saying about the grief healing journey being like an onion, because it brings up so many things that I think I sort of dealt with, and think that in the time that has passed since then, and kind of coming into a place that feels safer, the evolution of that sort of communication is still very much a work in progress, trying to learn how to, to voice things. And so I think like care in a time of safety, and when we can reach out, it feels it's like loud, and there's the ability to say what you need. I think that one of the most challenging things about care in a really difficult time is that at least, in my family and for me, I didn't feel like I had the ability to say anything. It was shameful. And I think that my relationship with my dad was really, he was awful, and and I loved him. And the other thing I just want to say is that I don't know what to say. I think that's enough to say for now.
Thank you, Erin. So we have these conceptions of care and what that can look like. And I'm wondering, what the role of, are you thinking about this idea maybe of like quiet and loud, and being able to ask for help and to talk with people. So what does the village look like? Conceptions of the village look like for y'all, as you're grieving, as you're building new families, as you are in this life as it evolves. I'm wondering if anyone would like to speak about that.
So the village for me looks like a lot of support, just to keep my sister memory alive. I also have her baby right here. Say hi, Tony. Hey. Her youngest baby, and I want to cry again, but she worked so hard to have her daughter, and she didn't even get to see her turn 1. So for me, the support looks like just keeping her 4 children with me, just support of my mom and my family. And of course, Anna has been a tremendous help for us, and just love, and Jasmin with her support, and my family and my extended family. So that's my village, and me helping other people get through their grief and healing.
So I guess I'm gonna piggyback off of that, because I definitely consider Renee like she's like the chief of the village that helps me conquer grief and difficult times in general. I haven't known Renee as long as I've known some of my other friends, but I always really consider her a sister, because the level of care that she's shown, which is really valuable and priceless to someone like me that spends a lot of time alone, and just like welcoming me into her village. My son was giving me a really difficult time because he's my first child that has a special need, and I didn't have that experience before. He's on the spectrum. And as soon as she met him, it was like, I don't know, maybe like some divine energy or something sent her, because it's like he immediately connected to her. Things that I didn't even understand about my own flesh and blood son, Renee did. And what she didn't know, she went and seeked out and gave me information so that I could know, and then created like a network for me of other women and mothers who were experiencing the same thing. So like the village came from her. Like I didn't have a village. And that was something that I really, really needed on my journey. And I appreciate that.
Well, I could expand on what you said, Jasmine, about not having a village. I feel like I still don't know who my village is. When I was starting to answer this question, at first I thought I wasn't going to answer it because I was like, I actually don't know who my village is. And I've been asked that question for so many years that I don't know why. I don't know what it is, who it is. And I think sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, or sometimes I have a village or I feel like I do and it's strong. And then other times I'm not certain. Just what that's looked like in my life is just I grew up in this area, but always kind of felt like disconnected from here. And more of my, I guess, my most formative years of my life, I was living abroad in Central America in predominantly El Salvador and Costa Rica, in very small villages where the village is literally just at your fingertips. Like there were just people around constantly. Like looking back, I feel like the best way to describe it is that I actually never really knew who the moms was of the kids. Like everyone was just always helping everyone and holding all the babies, that it took me like months to figure out. And they also, a lot of the children in, mostly in my experience in El Salvador, they called multiple people mommy. So it was just like, I wasn't a mom at the time, so I can't say I have the most full understanding of what was going on, but like that was my, like when I think of the village, that's what comes to mind. And then, like I said, when I lost my father, I was living abroad, and so I just left and came back here and was trying to like build a community. But so the closest friendships in the village that I had formed were people living outside of here. And I think when I became a mom and I was still trying to find my place here, I had those people, like I could call them, but I didn't have like hands. Like I feel like a lot of times what I need today are like hands and like a set of ears or a set of eyes, like just to be there for me. And the suburbs feel really isolating sometimes. And then coupled with the fact that I call myself a highly sensitive introvert. So when I'm going through hard times, I actually like become very, like I go into my shell. So it's like when I need, it's counterproductive. When I need the hands and the help the most, I like all of a sudden have no idea who my village is and don't know who to call and what to do. And I'm not even sure I want someone to come, even though I need someone there to help with my kids. I have a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old. So it's just like when stuff hits the fan, I like feel like I can't access my village. So I'm still sort of grappling with like, okay, how do I become better at this? And then also like sometimes for me, like who I want my village to be is not accessible. I want my dad to be here. I want to be able to call my best friend, and they're not there. And I think I get then sucked into my grief. And that's been something interesting about motherhood. It's like when times are hard, the people I want aren't there. And then I think I get like sucked into a bad place. And also then I have 3 sisters. We're all very close. And my mom lives in the area, and she doesn't often come to help. And I want her. And I like am constantly sort of talking myself out of being able to depend on her because I know she's not dependable. And so then that brings up grief too. And my sisters are just busy, and so they're not there. So it's like I have all these people in theory, but yeah, I think I'm probably looking in the wrong area. So I've kind of come to terms with the fact that I need other mom friends and build more of a community in this area. And then it's just been, of course, hard to do that during COVID. So my experience with the village is still, I don't know. And I think I'm still building it, or I think I just maybe have to know who I can turn to for what and when.
Okay, great. I wasn't sure. Hi. Yeah, I have a very different experience. I mean, I'm from an actual village in Europe, so I have a village, which isn't to be like, oh, let me brag about how things are in Europe, but it's just to say, like, I had the experience of when my parents died, because I was only, yeah, I was 22, 23. I kind of, I took the decision that I was going to try to reach out to people that were friends with my parents when my parents died, to try to create a community that I now knew. Like, I didn't have a family anymore, so I had to create one. And so when my parents died, first when my dad died, I like spent a lot of time with his family, like cleaning up his house, and we ended up having a big party where we scattered his ashes in the garden, because I really wanted to celebrate his life. I didn't want to go into church. I didn't want to do all these things that didn't really make sense for me. And so this event, or like this thing that happened, took about a month, and I kept seeing my family throughout that time. And I'm born in Denmark. My dad was born in Germany. So for a long time, I didn't even speak the same language as my dad's family. And so we didn't really have much of a relationship. But the fact that I would see them over and over and over kind of created this relationship all of a sudden. And then when all of my dad's friends came to this gathering, all I wanted was just for us to have a lot of time together to tell stories and to remember and to drink wine and to sit outside. And everybody brought food. And it was like this very beautiful moment. And it kind of really created the foundation of this ongoing relationship where, like, now when I come home to my village, which is literally a village in southern Denmark, I've cultivated these relationships with my parents' friends who live there, to the degree where, like, when during the pandemic in Denmark and there was lockdown and I didn't know where to go, like, I called people that I'm not even related to and was like, can I move into your house? I don't know where I'm going and I don't know what's happening. And they allowed me to do that. And so it's just to answer, like, kind of, or to sort of share some thoughts on both questions that you were asking, this thing of like, what does care look like in crisis, or what can it look like, and what constitutes the village for me. And I think, like, in my experience, care has always come during crisis. That's like where I've sort of been able to create lasting bonds with people, and the care that isn't present when there is this sort of, and I would say the illusion of stability, because capitalism is really unstable and the world is really in crisis all the time. But during this illusion of stability, like, there's this, often, like, I actually feel like people are further away from me. And then when there is crisis, that's when I've experienced that I was able to tell people, like, I want you to come now, like, I need your help, you know. And that's where, like, these ongoing sort of relationships that center care have been shaped for me. And that's like how I created my village, more or less. Don't know if that makes sense, but
Well, in terms of care now is, well, my life has become very complex because my husband had a horrible stroke 10 years ago. And it partly is one of the things that upset my son so much, that led to him having so much difficulties in the last 5 years. But I have to take care of him all the time. And then I had to take care of my son and try to help him stabilize. And it has been very rough. That's why when I lost him, I couldn't believe it, because he was like coming out of the tunnel. It was almost, it was very, very strange and very hard. And so now I'm just sort of left here. I'm still caring for my husband, and I'm caring for my daughter who suffered a lot because she was very close to my son. And the odd thing is that my son was extremely open-hearted, and he had many, many friends, many more friends. I'm kind of a loner, and my daughter seems to be a loner, and he was the outgoing person, so he has so many of his friends have still extended themselves to our family, and it's very touching, and it has helped us. So anyway, so that's what caring. And in terms of a village, I don't have much of a village. I basically am kind of a loner. So I was reaching out to some people in just different places, but nothing that I would feel like I could rely on. It's actually my son's friends that have really, because he touched many people very deeply. So that was really touching and wonderful. Anyway.
Okay. Thank you, Edith. Yeah, hearing y'all speak about this, and I'm reflecting a little bit about my own experience with grieving, that I grew up as a caregiver of my mother. I grew up as the mother of my mother, basically. And after my mother passed, I realized that I didn't have the, I didn't know how to ask for what I needed because I've never been asked what I needed before. And I didn't have words to be present or yes, grief for me, especially in the early days, was just so lonely and so quiet and so disorienting. And I'm taking, and I think now I'm learning to ask for my needs and to build community around that, to build a village around that. And it just resonated with me so much hearing y'all talk, because in a way, and as the curator, this has been an activity of a village in a way, hearing about Renee and Jasmin and y'all's relationship there. It's kind of amazing that the village is with us, that we can see that connection between y'all. And that, Edith, your son, Paul, has created, a village, and that village, even after he's passed, has pulled you, you and Anna are connected, and that, this is kind of a part of the exhibition, and that we can celebrate life and hold space for grief at the same time in this conversation and within the exhibition itself was so moving. And even to see some of in the chat, some of the responses and the kind of the hearts that are going up, and the, I don't know, when Jaime was talking and Anna was just like, I'm going to push whenever you say, I can't.
Gently, but push.
Push back. Yes, gently push back. When you're kind of in your more introverted, isolated phase, but do need the help and connection. And so I just wanted to reflect back how amazing it is that this space in and of, even as it is a temporal space, is a celebration, is an artifact of the village itself. So I had one closing kind of question that maybe we'll just answer it really quickly. But it's if, what's something that you wish people asked you more about? I don't know if that's resonating with anyone right now.
I'd actually, if it's all right, I'd like to jump in about grief and the village, because I feel like I very much appreciate that this conversation is an opportunity for people to share their own personal experiences of grief. And I'm struck by how deeply, deeply, deeply personal it is, and how at the same time it's so shared. I also lost my father coming up on 2 years ago. And so grief, I think, has played a major role in my life beginning in adolescence. But like, one thing that I feel like this is also a good opportunity for as artists making work that relates to these themes is the like for me, the question I grapple with is like, how do we offer moments to pause and to recognize and acknowledge the layers and the scale of grief? So as we're talking about village, I'm interpreting that as like as interrelationships. And as we're talking about grief, it's like, it's something that is like grief is it's an environment that we all live in right now. And it's like when we are so connected to in real time to things like all of these deaths in Palestine recently, police shootings, mass shootings, these giant rainforest fires, right? It's like we're constantly living in a place where in the background, at the deepest background, up to the closest personal present, there's all of these different experiences of grief to be like processing and trying to process in real time, and all of these like moments of police murdering Black people, just like this constant, like the repetition of it and this onslaught. And I'm just like, I feel like we're in an urgent place as far as climate change goes as well, and the loss of ecological like biodiversity. It's like it's not even just grief on a human scale exclusively. It's like there's all of this loss to be facing, and I'm just wondering, like, in my own work, I try to guide people through rituals and performance, and to create space that is both playful and but also like allows just like the container for like, I don't think you can move through these experiences without first creating space to hold them, and without developing the muscles or developing the skills to be able to sit with the discomfort and the pain, or to witness the discomfort and the pain of others. And then from that place, it can like, we can begin to move through, we can begin to transform. So I guess this is maybe just me asking a question to everyone involved in this show that is maybe generative in a way that happens after this particular Zoom conversation, but just how we can support each other in offering opportunities for people to really just like take a moment and acknowledge, like, yeah, I'm holding a lot, like there's a lot happening, a lot moving through me, a lot of grief, and along with that comes rage as well, and other really complicated, difficult emotions. And so like, how can we create these spaces that feel supportive and feel like we can hold each other in facing this pain, in order to support each other and create opportunities to move through it and to find joy, as a, something that is an experience that doesn't happen in spite of, but happens in addition to the pain that we're in.
Thank you, Celeste. That was really moving and beautiful, and actually a really wonderful transition too. So I was just going to lead a final kind of return to body ritual. We've been in a lot of different places emotionally and energetically in this conversation. And so returning to self ritual, Anna will then give a thank you. And then I think, we have another set amount of 10, 15 minutes if we want to pick up any of these like really wonderful ideas on collective grieving and processing, coping together, supporting each other, mutuality. There's an open engagement time for that too. So just to kind of return to ourselves, if everyone would take a deep breath in and then a deep breath out. And then if you'd like to put your hand back on your heart or on your wrist to connect with your pulse. And then we'll let the warmth of gratitude for this exchange, for all that we've heard today and all that people have had to offer us, just wash over us. And breathe in and breathe out. And we'll give thanks together. So with that, I will hand it over to Anna. I'll just note that I'll be sending out a thank you email to the participants, everyone who came today, that will also link to things that people have talked about and actually things that people haven't talked about. So you'll be able to see some of the work and the things that the artists here have been thinking about lately. But yes, Anna, I'll leave it to you.
Hi. I can breathe actually maybe a little bit better now, although I feel so full and so much more human than an hour ago. So I think that that is all I can ask for from a day. So I'm gonna refer to my script again. So of course I wanna say thank you to everyone for being here, for joining us, for the artists, for Kacie, for facilitating, personally for the opportunity to step back and listen. I'm really grateful for that. And of course, to Bethany for containing us physically and virtually, for providing this incredibly potent space. The Bethany team, which is the founder, David Lyons, Lori Baratella, who is board member extraordinaire, who helps immensely with every project, but especially all the projects I've been part of here. Abby Lewis, the new ED, and Bonnie, who just holds it all together. And everyone else, Tomasz, who takes care of the grounds here, along with David and everyone else. So yeah, incredibly grateful for all the folks, and again, the space and the land. I'm gonna mention a few important things like coming up. So please visit the website, bethanyarts.org, to see everything that's coming up. There are many events and other exhibitions and programs. There is artists in residence who have open studio sessions coming up that you can tune into on the 22nd, on the 25th. It's all on the website on the 26th. We have a closing event for this show on the 29th, and it's actually in person. It's a curated walk at Bethany and gallery hours before then to take everything in and then take it outside. And I want to make sure to thank the supporters and sponsors for this project and Bethany in general, which is Theater O, specifically for this project. Really grateful for them, local youth theater company with some amazing artistic directors at the helm. And then, of course, funding from NEA, as well as NISCA, as well as our local Arts Westchester, and a lot of generous support from various individuals, board members who make things like this possible, and will hopefully continue to make things like this possible. I think that as much as I want to say, that's all I actually have to say or can say in this limited time, because I want to open it up and see, you know, if there's some space and time for us to just have some more exchange. And I'm gonna stop the recording and thank you one more time before I stop the recording, and please stay on for another 10 minutes or so and say hello. Tell us how you feel.